アリス？
And it's a hunka burning gnosis. Welcome everybody to AB Live. And for those of you who are watching on video, I am wearing my Halloween costume. The king himself, Elvis, and I will explain how it is very relevant to our topic today. So welcome everybody again. But in my Clark Kent identity, I am Miguel Connor, your Pompatus of Gnosis. Welcome you to the desert of the real as always. And we are very excited on this Friday, this Venus day, this Freya day, to be discussing a documentary, a film by our friends from Dockside Media. As I was telling them, this is we've had the pleasure of doing 2 interviews on 2 of their movies, and this was my favorite one. It was actually intense. My race was pulsing afterwards, and I was shaking because it was pretty wild. But so I really enjoyed it. So I'd like to welcome Tyler and Chris. How you guys doing today?
Great. Thank you so much for having us back, Miguel and Vance. How you guys doing?
Doing good. Thank you very much. And seeing people coming into the chat. Hello, Mark. Hello, Laura. How are you? Hello, everybody. And hello, Vance. Vance, how are you doing today? You're on mute. The aliens have gotten
you. No, they censored me. Yep.
They got him.
Yeah, I've got too many windows going on here. Yeah, I'm doing okay. I feel bad though since I don't have a costume, so I decided to put one on here.
Oh,
I'm Ray Charles.
Agent.
Ray Charles. Low-hanging fruit. That's a great one, dude.
That's enough of that. You gotta do what you gotta do.
Awesome. Well, good to see you, Vance. And yes, I hope you have your in plain sight for this interview. So, guys, why don't we just before we play the trailer, as always, tell us how did this next movie of yours come about?
Fate, destiny. I don't know. It just like the other 3 documentaries that we've already released. This thing just wrote itself. I know. I think initially I saw retired CIA officer John Ramirez back in January. So 10 months ago, I saw him doing some YouTube interviews and PowerPoint presentations talking about some really interesting stuff. And also giving some good like information and pointing people in the right direction to start submitting FOIA requests to the NRO, the National Reconnaissance Organization, to see what kind of UFO data they might have captured. And so, yeah, saw that. And I was like, oh, Chris, yeah, hey, what about if we do In Plain Sight, the intelligence community and UFOs? He's like, yeah, dude, I love it. Let's do it. And from there, we ended up getting him, former Air Force Office of Special Investigations counterintelligence officer Richard Doty. Got to sit down with him for an interview. Roswell expert and author Tom Carey, who's published 12 Roswell novels, interviewed over 600 first and secondhand witnesses to Roswell, just a plethora of knowledge. Also, MUFON field investigator Jesse Peak. MUFON is the Mutual UFO Network. So your viewers, if they're familiar with that, if you have sightings, you can report it, and they have a database and are collecting all this data and reports to help solve this phenomenon. And then finally, we have Eric Mintel, who's an investigator and experiencer himself. So it just, I don't know, the ball of wax just kind of formed itself. And then Chris does his thing where he's like Michelangelo, man, and he just clears away the rough edges and pieces it together. And we're left with this really, really cool, we think, compelling, interesting, informative, entertaining, and thought-provoking documentary that gives viewers new information. Like I'll end with this and I'll shut up, but it's been dope going on these podcasts and hearing people like Miguel and Vance and all these other people who are really into UFOs and extraterrestrials and consume a ton of that type of content to give us this great feedback. Like, dude, I loved it. I watched it front to back. I actually went to the bathroom and then came back and watched it again. And we're like, wow, dude, that just fills our hearts, because we know how hard it is to make something that you can be engaged with over an hour and 20 minutes.
Awesome. Yeah, it was a great film. And like you said, talk about the belly of the beast. These are individuals who were in the program from the beginning, had contact with these extraterrestrials, and yeah, really the belly of the beast. I don't know what else to say. And of course, you always bring some great researchers, and you give us a summary of where we are today in these very strange times where, all four of us and not too long ago would be considered weirdos and fools and on the fringe, even though we were all following the science, like your guest, following the data. We weren't doing anything woo-woo or mystical. It was just in plain sight. But these days, it's not a big deal, even though we have to worry about misinformation, because we know these agencies are still throwing weird things. What's the famous saying? A limited hangout. When the CIA and other groups, they'll throw enough information to whet our appetite, but it still throws things off. You know what I mean? So it's almost like, I was thinking, if they gave the let's say they said, okay, we have the body of the remains of an extraterrestrial, just out of habit, somebody in the agency would put some disinformation that, no, these are Neanderthal remains. No, they always got to muddy the waters, don't they? In fact, one of your guests is it's counterintelligence.
And
He's
it's not
always
even
got
just
to
like,
make sure. Yeah.
it's like not even just agencies. It's like the internet. People always have to have an opinion, and they're already coming to it with like an opinion on something that they don't know anything about. And so then they'll spread their message, and then it's muddied. Then you don't know what's real anymore. And you could do that with almost anything nowadays. Look at politics. It's all he said, she said, bullcrap, and you don't know what anyone actually said anymore.
Yeah. And it's all, myself included, I need to be mindful of it, but it's very easy in this day and age to read the headline and then read the comments, and the most popular comment, well, that must be the correct interpretation, right? And so all these perceptions of our reality and these people and politics and all these things are formed, and UFOs based on potentially an algorithm or just some bad actors, because, we're from like front page of Reddit and stuff. I mean, how easy is it to manipulate upvotes and stuff?
And they've been poisoning the UFO
certain
community
things
for
are
years.
seen.
Yeah.
So it's
They've been poisoning the well for years. You go on a thread and there's people giving good data, and they'll put some wacko that says weird stuff. He's control opposition. That kind of ruins the whole movement. It's insane. Vance, what did you think of the movie?
Oh, I thought it was very well done. Had some new elements. I've been watching this stuff for years, but a couple of, the new elements, particularly the guy from the NRO, who I have a little bit of exposure to that agency, nothing direct. But I'll tell you, those guys don't tell anybody anything. I don't think any FOIA requests are going to dig anything out of those guys. They are so secretive.
Not with that attitude, Vance. Come on, we got to think good thoughts.
It's not up to me. Not up to me.
And just for clarification, he's actually CIA. He's not NRO. He was CIA, and he was a trained ballistics missile radar, I think, operator. Basically, he was watching over Russian airspace, right, during like the Cold War and whatnot, and picking up these anomalies and seeing like the Russians recognize that they don't know what it is and mobilizing. Right. So like it's even just dope facts like that are really cool to hear from somebody who's, like, dude, they're highly trained. Like that's what they do. They look at radar and charts and everything all day. So if he's saying, hey, this happened on multiple occasions, so, well, dude, I'm inclined to believe him.
And God knows what he's not telling us, because he's going to get carted away. I mean, they got to be very careful. You never leave the CIA. Once you take those, oaths and briefings for security clearance, you're in for life. I don't
Oh,
care
like
what
the
you do.
mafia. So they're
Oh yeah.
mobsters for all practical
Oh
purposes.
yeah. No. When you leave the service, they drop the clearance, but you sign things, non-disclosures, and so forth, so that you're next on the chopping block. That's just the way it is. So he says what he thinks he can say safely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sure.
and
Indeed.
he's just a smart cookie. I mean, when he gave the PowerPoint presentation, like back in January or maybe it was December of last year, but you can look it up. I mean, dude, he did his due diligence that he went and sent this, I forget, say 200-point presentation, whatever it was, to the CIA to look over, and they don't confirm or deny anything, but they said, yes, this is fine. You can print all this with the CIA's name on it, basically. So it's like, wow, dude, that's just insane that he ran not all the stuff that was said in the doc, but in some previous stuff. I mean, he's doing his thing. Maybe we should have ran our doc by the CIA to see if they would have put their stamp of approval on it.
It's funny they do it both ways too. They put out UFO stories to cover secret aircraft, and then they slip secret aircraft stories to cover UFOs. You go both ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Richard Doty touches on that for sure in the documentary.
And the weather balloons and all that insanity.
Mhm.
Well, why don't we get to the trailer for the audience? First, a little housekeeping. Again, as some of you may wonder, I am actually in disguise. But this is my Halloween disguise. I want to get a little mileage out of it. And it is, and I thought I'd have fun. And it is relevant. Some of you may know Elvis had several extraterrestrial encounters, including when he was born, his father Vernon saw a comet or a light in the sky. He and his spiritual advisor, Larry Geller, saw some lights many times while they were driving in Arizona, probably from Memphis to Hollywood. And then he had encounters in Graceland, even one that's pretty funny where he calls one of his bodyguards, and the bodyguard comes out and there's lights coming, and it's not an airplane, it's something moving very fast, these lights. And Elvis goes, go get the other guy so we can take a look at this. They go in and they come out and Elvis is gone, and the bodyguard's like, shit, Elvis has been abducted by aliens. We're going to lose our jobs. And they're running around and they find Elvis in some neighbor's house, just wandering around looking at the sky. So he had several of those encounters.
Wow.
They are out there. I'm sure I've had my encounters. So thought it'd be relevant and fun. Other than that, wanted to mention too, as always, please, it comes out October 18th, right, guys? Next week.
Correct. This coming Tuesday,
Amazon.
October 18th on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, and Microsoft.
Awesome. Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's quite a ride. It's intense, and I love intensity with documentaries. And a blink of an eye, you'll want to watch it again because your head will be like, yeah, it's like, I love this information, but who do I trust? But I do, it's this sort of a game of cat and mouse that you have to play inside your head and with the data. So yeah.
And I think it's packed with good information in that we've had people watch it twice. Do a podcast, and another person on the pod brought up a piece of information like, oh my gosh, I missed that. So it's like, oh wow, you could watch it twice or a third time and still get new information out of it. It's just that, that packed with it. So especially for somebody like Vance, who's been, and you, Miguel, studying this for a while, it's cool to hear. You're like, wow, I heard some very new things that had not come up before. So I think that's just good in general to expose people to stuff outside their little box so that we can, learn and grow, and become informed and then make your own opinions and decisions. But it never hurts to have more information.
Yeah.
Never.
The details on Roswell were particularly well displayed, I thought, about the multiple crashes and so forth. Yeah.
My on a related note, my mother-in-law bless her soul, she was a Roswell baby. Her father was a colonel in Roswell when all this shit went down. So the colonel never spoke a word, but as a kid, my mother-in-law saw, people leaving their ranches in the middle of the night, the colonel walking in all freaked, there was all this commotion in that area, and she always knew something was up. But again, the colonel was attached to the CIA, and he kept his mouth shut. So another interesting connection. So hunka burning noses. All right, guys. Oh yeah, the other thing I wanted to say real quick is please support this show. A lot of you are pissed off because PayPal did its latest evil thing with charging people $2,600 for misinformation. A lot of you have unsubscribed, so I have taken a bath in my subs. Some of you have moved, but for those of you who are interested and are mad, I understand. There's no doubt PayPal is evil. But if you want to support a little less evil, but just as stupid as Patreon, if not, Red Circle, my podcast provider, you can join for the full shows, complete shows for just $4.99 a month. So just thought I'd bring that up as these evil corporations do what they do. But enough of that. Let me whip out the trailer and then we can talk about it and expand our conversation, have our minds expanded, reality disbanded. Here it goes.
With all due respect to the Air Force, I believe that some of them will prove to be of interplanetary origin.
I walked into a building, there was a closed circuit camera showing a picture of an ET on the camera.
It was not extraterrestrial, it was extratemporal. Time travelers.
People have gone down this rabbit hole many times, and they come out on the dark side in all this because they know that they'll never win.
Lies, deception, manufacturing the truth.
There's this secrecy over Roswell, that particular incident, that the government has never addressed.
And that's been the greatest mystery, is like, what is the answer?
We knew that this person was a hybrid.
They threatened the civilian population, and there were a lot of them, with death. They said, if you talk about this, we're not only going to kill you, we're going to kill your whole family.
Rock and roll. That was intense. Yeah, and part of the intensity, as it shows, is we talked about the CIA and the government being mafia thugs, is the threatening of ranchers, media people, beyond the disinformation. One of your guests is like, if they hadn't gone with the stupid weather balloon narrative, they could have gotten with it was so much more like this was just an errant aircraft. But as soon as they said weather balloon, people started asking more questions because that was the stupidest excuse you could have given to hide this extraterrestrial stuff. So want to unpack some more of this, Tyler or Chris, of the trailer?
Chris,
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
Juan, I think that trailer, if you're not fired up after watching that, I'm not a doctor, but you might want to get tested for depression because something isn't firing on all cylinders. I mean, I think it does a good job of touching on some of the different things like hybrids, extratemporal or time travel. I found it really neat that like my brother watched an advanced screener of it, and he's not into really aliens or anything like that. He's like a physician and whatnot, very by the book. And it was great that he came away from it. He's like, dude, one, I loved it. And two, if anything, I think the time travel idea or hypothesis might have the most weight. So it was just cool. I think there's something for everybody in this documentary. And man, we had a lot of fun putting it putting it together. Absolutely. And flying around and basically living through this like Jason Bourne movie, you know, flying out to Arizona and to New Mexico and interviewing these counterintelligence officers and CIA officers and like looking over my shoulder and like showing up to John Ramirez's place. He's like, oh yeah, no, the CIA, they're where you're coming. I'm like, wait, say what? Like, this is just really, I don't know. We're very thankful that we've been put on this path to help destigmatize these topics, help bring some new information and shed some more light on these topics so we can generate more discussion and hopefully get more answers on, you know, what's really going on here. Because I wouldn't be surprised if the universe is so big that, dude, it's not like one or two extraterrestrial beings or interdimensional beings or transdimensional beings visiting us. It's like a million, a billion. Right? I mean, what I think the odds are in the same, like just as good that there's a plethora of things around us, just like the AM and FM radio waves going through the air all around us and Wi-Fi signals. I mean, we can't see it, but it's just because our senses aren't tuned to it. And I don't know what frame rate the human eye, what we see life in. I don't know if it's at 60 hertz per second but you know, obviously it's wild. Some of these slow motion videos that I've seen recently, like say like on TikTok, where somebody's just doing like a bicycle kick, soccer kick into a goal, just filming it in that super 120 frame, 240 frame per second, real slow-mo footage. And you happen to see this thing flying. It was just on Reddit, I think yesterday, like flying and people running the math on everything. And they're like, dude, this has to be going, I forget what it was, but whether it was 350 miles per hour, it was like, dude, based on some just very general mathematics, there's no way this is a bird. There's no way this is a bug. You can see it's going, looks like goes behind the tree, right? So you can get some distance. Like, it's really fascinating. So I think the more people are studying this and talking about it, eventually I think maybe we get some answers.
You think so? I mean, here's a question I have for you. Yeah, as we're talking about, we followed the data, and I know obviously you're talking about there's so many questions. Are they hybrids, Nephilim, time travelers? Is there a confederation of these extraterrestrial beings and all that? But are we any closer? Because it seems even with all these disclosures of the government, it still seems kind of obfuscated. It's still, I don't think we are any closer, except for the research that people have done. And I know Jacques Vallée always said, every time I have one theory, I come up with 9 different theories of what these aliens are. I know the data is for sure that there is an ontological reality. There is there is these other forms of consciousness that are visiting us, but I can't do it. But do you think we are any closer, even with the government showing us more?
I think we're judging this partially insofar as the world moves so quickly nowadays with the internet, news, everything is so much is happening every day with the news. It's like crazy. And so I think we are making progress. I think maybe we're not being patient enough, thinking about how this stuff has to bleed out into society and spread and become less stigmatized in a way. Sure, maybe what you're looking for is like the government to just release like a 3,000 page report with all sorts of facts and images and everything. But I don't know what that would do to the world either. Just dropping something that massive on this society we currently live in might be devastating. Maybe it's more of a long game, slowly seed out information, get people to become comfortable with the idea before dropping something major. I don't know for sure. But I do know, like, we talk about just things propagating through the media and through society tends to take longer when you're looking at it on a day-to-day thing. But as you look back in the past, you're like 5 years ago, like, oh, this was the time something happened. You know what I mean? It's just when we're living in the moment, maybe we don't notice it as much.
Yeah, and I think if anything, man, these congressional reports and stuff, they're doing a good job of just like bringing it to like the collective consciousness of mankind, right? I think there's something to that, that the more people that are aware of it and not freaking out over it, maybe the more information that's trickled out. And like Chris said, I mean, me personally, it's easy for myself to like look for that instant gratification, man. And I'm just like always like looking right now. I can't see, you know, a week down the road, a month, a year, and it's like, yo, real talk. My great grandma, well, she passed away, but my great grandparents were crapping in outhouses, bro. Outhouses. Now we're crapping at 30,000 feet in a metal tin can flying at 500 miles per hour. So in another 80 years, are we crapping in flying saucers and stuff like that out in the middle of space visiting? Like it wouldn't surprise me, because I feel like it's very easy to underestimate, the capabilities of like, mankind. I don't want to get into some big vaccine discussion, but I thought it was mad dope how mRNA vaccines had been worked on or looked at for a while. And what it takes is this massive global scenario where everybody's put under the gun, and somehow humanity pulled through and was able to develop all these mRNA vaccines. And does that help somewhere down the road help with like cancer, curing cancer and stuff like that? Like, I don't know. I'm not like a biologist or into like pharmaceuticals, but I don't know. There's all these little steps that just so happen, like the CERN firing up the LHC back in July, throwing us into another timeline where the Philadelphia Eagles are undefeated, baby. They're the only undefeated team left in the NFL. So, we're in a different timeline. And what they discover, they discovered new particles, right? Like we keep thinking, oh, dude, it can't go smaller than the electron. Oh, wait, the Higgs boson. It can't go smaller than the Higgs boson. And they keep finding out that matter is smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So I don't know. I feel like a positive attitude and just destigmatizing this and letting people comfortably talk about these phenomena, weird, unexplainable things that they're seeing or experiencing. I think that's going to go a long way. And I don't know what happens in 10, 20, 30 years from now, but I bet we're a lot better off than we are, or than we were, or are now. Because I don't know if anybody would have thought the government would ever do these reports, right? Like this, people from Roswell would be like, oh, dude, we need, and here they are. And they don't say it's extraterrestrial, but the UAP task force report was like, oh, dude, out of 113 out of the 114, it's not foreign tech and it's not our tech. It's like, I'm sorry, but if it's not one of those two things, well, what the heck do you think it is, right? It's got to be extraterrestrial, transdimensional, interdimensional. It just has to be by process of elimination.
But I think a lot of it has to do with, you just said government, suspicion of government. I think there's even one part in the documentary where Eric Mintle is talking about how there was a point where Nixon was like, screw it. I'm gonna reveal this stuff. And he had a documentary made, all the information. And again, there's always this Game of Thrones within the government. And what happens is you get these reveals that are either watered down or they mark off. I mean, remember when Trump released all this JFK stuff, they took out so much, it didn't even help. So that's the problem that we get, this sort of, this infighting within the empire and shadow governments and all that. So that's the frustrating part, when I'm sure.
And what type of methods and collections, bro, from back when JFK was assassinated, like what would be compromised by not redacting that report? Like if the whole thing behind it is like, oh, we can't compromise intelligence, like gathering and methods and stuff like that. That's why it stays, that's why it stays right redacted. It's like, bro, if we're still using those same methods, despite having Snowden dropping all these bombs on prison, like just,
and everybody's dead from that. Then I mean,
exactly.
Their lives are going to be put at risk.
Yeah, it makes no sense. Other than, in my opinion, it's like, well, you're going to get a massive public shift in opinion towards the government if they fall on this sword, right? And show just how potentially nefarious they can be. Because things like Operation Northwoods, it didn't go through, but it was a proposed plan. Like these are our best ideas. And I don't know. I don't know if that's what people at the top, this Game of Thrones you're talking about, if like that's just how they operate. But it's like, okay, we need a leg up on Cuba. We need to, harm a few of our citizens, blow up a plane and claim it's Cuba. So the greater good, is conquered or whatever. Like, it's crazy. Thank God. Yeah. JFK didn't do that, but, it's interesting. These things have been done.
I always think it's weird that I think in general, people are suspicious of the government. We obviously have reason to be, like just think of the NSA and what Edward Snowden revealed and all that stuff. There's like legitimately proven things out there. But whenever you say you're suspicious of like UFO cover-ups and stuff, then you become really fringe all of a sudden. But it's like, we know the government covers things up. We've known that for so long. So why is it weird to think that they would do that as well?
Exactly. I know there's the other part which was made my eyebrows rise. You had Richard Doty, the counterintelligence guy, and he was talking about this scenario, and let me know your thoughts, but you have these two alien ships that are flying across space. They're flying 40,000 light years with the amazing astrophysicist science. I mean, the kind of technology we still have not discovered. Pure precision, the greatest thing that magic for us, godlike magic for all practical reasons. But then they get to Earth and then they crash into each other. How did that happen? I mean, it wasn't like they were on the street, they were still on the sky. So how did these two ships just travel across space and then crash as soon as they got to Earth? That was a bit weird. And even he thought so.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, no, it definitely, using my little pea-sized brain, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But, if there's things like the connection of, UFOs, UAPs being around nuclear sites, right? And different nuclear sightings, it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe there's something with, right, when you detonate a nuclear bomb that somehow it penetrates whatever anti-gravity propulsion, quantum entanglement machine there. I don't know. I'm just, I wouldn't rule it out that, just because they have all this advanced tech. Yeah, I guess it's hard to always think of everything,
And maybe somebody
and it takes those mistakes to continue to learn and get better.
They got some radio waves and they listened to Elvis and they got distracted and then crashed. That could be a possibility. Yeah.
What's weird though is Richard Doty, how he just like casually drops like unheard of things into like well-known stories. But I struggle. I mean, man, Richard Doty, he's such an interesting dude. Because I don't know if I'm being gaslit the whole time when he's talking, just based on his past history of what he's done. But he seems legitimate when you hear him speak. But then to casually drop in these new facts, it's like, what is the game there? If it's something you're making up, why would you add that? What does that do? Does that add credibility to you? I don't know. It's so interesting, though. That's how my mind works when he's talking. It's at one point I'm like, yeah, I'm bought in. Another point I'm like, I don't know if I can trust you.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's very dry and kind of goes where. Yeah, it's almost sometimes like when you're listening to Alan Watts, you wonder, is he making fun of me? Does he believe what he's saying? He's playing this mind game to kind of help you stay on your toes and jar you out of normative consciousness. I think that's what he's doing. So probably that's, he's an agent. That's what he does.
True, exactly. But on the other spectrum is John Ramirez, which has tons of footage on the cutting room floor. But with John Ramirez, everything seems very personal with him. He recounts like his whole history and how he got involved in extraterrestrials and UFOs and his experiences he had. This didn't make it into the documentary, but you can see when he's talking about it how like he has a personal connection with this subject matter in a way where it is extremely sincere. But Richard Doty feels more like he's giving me a presentation. He's presenting this facts that he has. They're different. I don't discount either of them. It's just interesting hearing them speak.
For sure.
And for what it's worth, I mean, nothing, when I sat down with Richard Doty, I mean, I didn't have any gut feelings like, oh, this guy, he's just a snake, or he's trying to pull one over on us. Like, he is, like Chris, very disarming. I don't know if it's the glasses, you know, a little nervous, right? To go on camera, you build up in your head like, oh, this guy's a counterintelligence officer. He's going to walk in here, just boop, 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 probably manipulate me into doing something I don't want to. And it's like, oh, no, dude, the guy was very just down to earth, genuine, sincere. Nothing pinged my radar that, oh, dude, this guy is acting in bad faith. So very interesting, but, you know, part of me is like, oh, well, was he just trained that well? Right. Because that's what counterintelligence officers need to do is quickly and easily gain your trust so that you're sharing information with them. And then, you know, they'll share information with you and you feel like, oh, wow, this is dope. They share this with. So, you know, I'm not sure, but my gut feeling is, man, he seemed very sincere. These were the things he saw, heard, the experiences he had. And, you know, if anything, maybe he's like trying to turn over a new leaf, like based on the past things he's done. And maybe he's trying to advance this topic now that he's, you know, retired.
Yeah, awesome. That's for sure. Yeah, I'd hate to go to my grave if I had all these secrets like my wife's grandfather. He went to his grave without it, and that can't be easy. And people say, well, people in the government can't keep secrets, but I think Richard points out the Manhattan Project had thousands of people, billions of dollars, facilities, and they were still able to keep it relatively secret. So something like this could happen, and I know the knowledge, again, I don't know, keep it inside of me for 50 years, that would be a bitch. So, and
that's and let me just ask you this, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but your father-in-law, the colonel, who
grandfather-in-law would be
grandfather-in-law, who took it to his grave, as far as you know, he was a good, upstanding human being, a moral man.
Yeah. But he thought the CIA was good. He bought the propaganda. You know, he said, we are the good guys.
Exactly. So it's like, I don't, you know, I try my best not to really throw stones a whole lot because, like, until I'm in somebody else's shoes and living their life, it's like, I don't know if I'm in that position and I'm being told, basically, hey, this is like, be a good American, be a good patriot. This is for the betterment of our country. I know it. It's not good to lie, but you have to do this for your family's sake, so society doesn't crumble. I don't know, but, you know, unless I'm there going through it, I don't, you know, I think for the most part, people aren't sociopaths and they aren't out there just looking to, like, whatever, get enjoyment out of harming others. And so a lot of the times, when people do maybe some questionable stuff or have some bad actions, you know, in their mind, based on their situation, it probably seemed like a good idea at the time. It really did. So I don't know. It's it's an interesting world we live in, man. It really is. So, and Richard Doty, he's just an interesting individual, and I don't think we can make a documentary on, you know, the intelligence community and UFOs without including him. We just can't. He had a ton of information that we would not have had access to had we tried to interview somebody else.
And you guys haven't had anything weird happen while you did this documentary? Phone calls, lights in the sky, anything like that? Everything is kosher?
Not in this one, right? Conscious contact you had experience, but no, nothing in this one.
Yeah, nothing with this one. And the other one had some like Hitchhiker effects or just coincidences with my son's medication disappearing and then reappear, or his inhaler disappearing and reappearing. But again, that story ends with Well, enough things happened, and my son was getting a little bit wigged out, my 8-year-old, and I'm like, man, look, if this is the Ponte messing with me, well, or with us, well, Ponte, please make Dad the best filmmaker in the universe. And dude, since saying that, we've got 4 documentaries picked up, like in less than a year. So maybe, I don't know if they're out there helping guide us, man. Mad props to the Ponte.
Awesome.
Extraterrestrials.
Hey, Ponte, can you make the Chicago Bears not suck? Just throwing that one out.
That's a tall order, bro. You saw that game last night. Yeah. Come on.
Limitation of everything,
Painful. But no, that makes sense. And of course, we should say that we actually are missing a guest. Jesse Peak was supposed to show up and he got sick. So, although in this age, I think this year, at least 3 or 4 guests get COVID or something. I mean, this is the time where people get sick and they get sick fast. Wherever you stand on the debate, it's a reality now. So guests kind of dropping off because they're sick is more common than it used to be.
Yeah, and in Jesse Peak's case, we're not entirely sure it wasn't a directed energy weapon, because he'd been feeling great the past few days. So looking forward to coming on. And a couple hours ago, he's like, oh man, dude, I'm sick. I'm sick. Like I can't do this. And I tried to be encouraging, like, oh no, well, no worries. But hey, if you feel better, let us know. Maybe you can hop on. Still haven't heard back from him checking in here recently, but he's a tough character. He's former Army National Guard. Mm-hmm. Obviously it takes some guts and heart to be a MUFON field investigator and go out and get these reports and hear about people, feeling that they've had sightings or abductions or implants. So like, yeah, it's just interesting for him to, he must be really, really under the weather to not be able to hop on here, because he's not the type of person that just kind of flakes out. He's like a go-getter. So yeah, bummer he's not here. That would have been real cool for your audience for sure. But dude, again, I love that the community you've built and the audience and the following, bro. You got comments just popping off left and right.
People out there. Yeah, smart people out there. I love the comments. It's very educational. Everybody keeps, is passionate, but everybody keeps their cool and wants to interact. So yeah, good audience tonight. And it's interesting too. You were talking about the V word and all that, but that's always the big wonder, right? Because I don't know if you're familiar with Chris Knowles did a great series called Lucifer's Technology, and one of his insights is when you look at a graph of technology of humanity, it's pretty steady, right? Except humanity is going, and then the Sumerians come up and the graph just shoots up. It's like astronomy, agriculture, making beer, it's like pops up out of nowhere. You wonder, nobody understands what happened, how they suddenly just came out of nowhere with all this technology. But then humanity's going up, Roman Empire, Middle Ages, we're adding, we're innovating, we're discovering. Then suddenly in the 50s, bang, you got another huge shot. It just shoots up, and people wonder, well, is this what could it be? Roswell, Nazi technology that went the Nazis being funded by Bush and Ford, and all this money came and technology exploded. Or it could be we found some otherworldly technology and we've been jumping on it, and now we're kind of, it's like we ran out. The locker rooms in New Mexico are run out of stuff because we're kind of, Meta, Snapchat. I mean, what do you guys think?
I think humanity in whole generally doesn't react until forced to a lot of times. Talk about the space race where we reacted to the Russians, right? And when we did that, look at how much just coming together, how much we were able to accomplish so quickly. And we do that with a lot of things. Just talking about the pandemic stuff. That's what happened there as well. It's just the day-to-day working, going about your life, like you just push all that stuff off. It's in the future. It's in the future until there is no time left. And that's when we ultimately do collaborate in the ways that if we could do that all the time, just think of where we would be as a society. So that's kind of my opinion of that whole theory that you're talking about. I mean, you could say there's been like extraterrestrial interference that's providing us with these like evolutionary jumps as well. I wouldn't rule that out in the past. I haven't seen that in my lifetime, but I don't know.
Have to mention Colonel Corso in this regard, who claimed that he had Roswell technology that they deliberately spread out to corporations and so forth. What do you guys think of that?
It makes sense. It's the easiest way to be like plausible deniability, and it's like the easiest way for for the for Congress and this UAP task force. Like if they say, hey, it's not foreign tech and it's not our tech, like they're speaking on behalf of the government. So right, if you've siphoned this all off into different little private sector or private companies, and they're all researching it independently. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing. Like, I don't know. It's an easy way for them probably to sleep at night with a clean conscience. Like, oh, well, no, we're really not, it's really not ours. The government's not working on this. So I think it makes a lot of sense for that to be a possibility. And I'm open, dude. I never rule anything out until I would have just concrete proof that, hey, this is not possible. So could we have, could our technology like have been seeded by extraterrestrials? Yeah, probably. I don't see why they wouldn't. I mean, we just do all types of stuff. And when we go find, like a lot of times we're not, like if we would find an uncontacted tribe in the Amazon, like we're not going to interfere with them, but I'm sure there's tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of documented cases where missionaries or people, whatever, met people who had been uncontacted, gave them medicine, gave them food, gave them technology, right? And helped them advance. So yeah. Out of all the ETs out there, would somebody want to help us? I'm sure there's some compassionate ETs out there.
Well, and going back to the corporations angle, like we know corporations work hand in hand with the government, especially like these massive corporations, these conglomerates, with their lobbying and their personal connections and all that stuff. So, it'd be a plausible deniability on the form of the government, but yet still ultimately moving society and whatever in the direction they want to go.
What do you think, Vince? Or any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I'm looking for them. I don't see. People are strangely silent about questions. There people are commenting, of course, on everything quite a bit. But there's almost always, or in a good number of cases, telepathic aspects to UFOs. So if that's true, they know what people are doing and they can monitor us. And but even more importantly than that subject, now with all the nuclear Armageddon, Holocaust, World War III stuff going on, it brings to mind the concept that maybe the visitors are trying to stop us from destroying ourselves and the planet. Because remember all those missile silo sightings way back when, where they actually, as far as I could tell, that's pretty real, where they turned off the missiles. Or actually, they armed missiles in Russia. They turned them off in the United States. I don't know what that says. But you got to wonder if there's a corresponding UFO activity nowadays with Putin rattling his nuclear saber there.
Might be more noticeable in some ways, but I always think back to Star Trek, where it's like the Vulcans ignored humanity until they reached a certain point of technology reach, where they became interesting to them. And that could be the case as well. I don't know.
Yeah, that's been posited, and a very popular idea that since we became nuclear, when the first nukes went off, we got their attention, and that's when all the sightings flared up. All of a sudden, they were honest like flies,
For sure.
So anal probes aren't interesting? I mean, that's like going on
they're
a
always
date.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we should be
speak for
more
yourself
than
there,
friends
Elvis.
with them. We should be more than friends with these guys now with second base or third base. Oh, well.
We do have a question here. How do you guys feel about Jung's ideas on UFOs? Phi Leighton Test wants to know.
Good question. I'm not informed enough to speak on it, so I'd rather read up on it. And then, I mean, I'm just cursory familiar with that. Yeah, he had, I want to say, a lot of different theories and ideas about the consciousness aspect, right? And just how, how that's all interacting. So kind of, I guess, to Vance's point a couple minutes ago, yeah, telepathy, things like that. Okay, here's what's up. Like right now, anybody with access to all our data with our phones can make very educated guesses about what we're doing, what we're thinking, where we're going, and what our future holds. And then if they want to manipulate us, knowing my schedule, habits, all these different things, it'd be very easy to put something that I like somewhere along that path. So, oh, wait, there's a pretty girl with big boobs. Yeah, let me go talk to her. Like, it's a stupid example, but the point, or, oh, look at this cool new video game or something like that. So like, yeah, in another 100 years, well, right. Do we just have the science to be collecting that data and everything, from whatever that's being given off from our consciousness, our minds? I'm sure we eventually get to that point. And then, yeah, we're communicating like that. It's second nature, and people 100 to 1,000 years from now think we were absolutely savages for opening our mouths and talking and typing on keyboards.
Yeah, it's weird that the telepathy thing always gets kind of wrapped around the woo side of UFOs and extraterrestrial stuff.
Very natural, yeah.
But to me, it makes the most sense, right? If the technology can reach that point, that's got to be way more effective than making noises with your mouth. Actually transferring your thoughts. So I don't know. That seems way more the nuts and bolts side, just kind of beyond our current understanding with technology and stuff.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, transmitting pictures and thoughts and so forth. That might even be how some of these influencers are influencing. I know they're studying it, even publicly. They'll say they're studying, influencing the mind, doing brain scans and trying to recreate images in people's minds. They're trying, even publicly. But I always think, what are they? Any powerful technology is going to be held secret by one country so that the other country doesn't get the advantage. Mm-hmm. That's just a fact of life. You can't get away with that. That's, one of the known quantities that we start with. In that case, as soon as the secrecy comes in like that, you don't know what's really, what kind of technology is really had, we really don't know.
Do you think countries like the United States knows about whatever these other countries' secret projects are?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, they're all aware of each other's projects, but they're still secret in some way.
Well, it's pretty well known that the intelligence agencies, especially the civilian ones, are kind of intermingled throughout the world. The Russians, the Americans, the Mossad.
They all work together.
They all work together.
They're still...
Because they have more in common with each other than they do with the people they're allegedly serving, right? So, they trade information, and everybody knows whatever. It's we the public that don't know what's going on. These guys all know. I'm sure they still have secrets from each other, but you got to wonder. There's a global intelligence community.
When you were talking about influencers, are you talking about like social media influencers?
No.
Okay.
I'm talking about, alleged visitors, aliens, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
Using ESP to influence minds directly.
I mean, where does our creativity come from? Where does, how does this documentary come to be? What propels us or compels us to want to go make this documentary? And a lot of times when we're making up the titles for these documentaries or the narration, it just comes right from nowhere, from the ether. And in a typical, I think, like Judeo-Christian society, like most people are like, oh, that was God inspired, right? That came from God. But I don't know, maybe in 100 years, we start realizing, oh, wow, dude, no, this was extraterrestrial inspired. So I think it's possible that those types of images and stuff could be sent or put into people's minds to help direct them. I mean, Chris and I, if somebody would have given us a polygraph test 2 years ago and said, dude, you guys think you'll ever in a million years make UFO documentaries? I think both of us would have said, no. And we would have passed that polygraph with flying colors. And so here we are 4 documentaries later, pumped up and fired up about the stuff and talking about it. So who knows where that momentum push came from?
Yeah, well, religions, there's so much in common between the search for aliens, visitors, and religion, the search for God, the search for spirituality. And there's an overlap there, I think. And who knows, maybe even the intelligence agencies are saying, God, as traditional religions drop off, we're having more and more problems with people. We need to replace it with something. So let's push in the aliens as kind of a new religion for people. Yeah, new unknown. Who knows? What do you guys think about that concept?
Well, I wanted to comment more about the social media influencer thing.
Sure, go ahead.
Because I feel like now it's so relevant, like seeing this new way that society is being manipulated and changed in a way where like there's all these terms, these slang terms. Like I would hear terms in high school and stuff, and we'd come up with these new things people say. But now these social media influencers have like creating this whole new culture amongst the youth or just people in general. So it's weird to see like this new form of, I don't know what you want to call it, communication or whatever, spread, where it's like these parasocial relationships that are so easy to fall into these cliques and easy to fall into like these think groups. Do you know what I mean? Where we all kind of think the same way. So I don't know. It's all kind of related there in some ways, where it's just goes back to the government influence people, the media influencing people, individuals influencing groups of people like this. It all becomes so muddy so quick.
Social resonance in the echo chambers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I wanted to answer about Jung. We could do a whole nother show, but yeah, he did say it was a projection of the unconscious, but it had kinetic abilities like appearing. It was affecting reality, like, UFO appearing on a radar. But I think he knew there was something else because he was writing letters to the CIA to give him information about UFOs. And as Diana Pasulka in her great book, American Cosmic, wrote, he always used weird words. And, Jung never did anything but like seemingly impossible. He was couching it in a way that he was saying, no, this is more than just a projection. But again, he did pass away in the early 1960s, so he never really got never got the data that he needed. And you were talking about telepathy, Tyler, and the government's Chris. We can't forget that the governments have been using telepathy and remote viewing for decades. Both the Russians and the Americans, just look at the work of Lynn Buchanan and others. So they know any technology. They know, the Russians know where Zelensky is right now, just as Zelensky knows where Putin is right now. It's this game of rattle sabering. And like you said, Vance, these mafiosos are playing honor amongst thieves, even with our governments. So,
Miguel, how did you know that our next documentary is about remote viewing?
Elvis always knows, Hunka. Yeah,
somebody who had
it. Yeah, you remote viewed it. Yeah.
ESP. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Oh, that's going to be great.
Well, it's not the next one, because actually the next one we're filming tomorrow and the next day. Ghosts in the Graveyard, pure pandemonium. Because here's what's up. There's an abandoned ghost town out here in Pennsylvania called Pandemonium. It's been going for like 120 years or whatever. Really tiny graveyard out in the middle of nowhere. Bunch of people met untimely demises there.
Wow.
Already interviewed the author and historian of this town of this ghost town of Pandemonium. So Chris and I and 6 to 10 other people will be out there tomorrow night, and the next day, doing some paranormal investigating, seeing what we can find. it's going to be a really good time. So it'll be a dope doc as well. But after that, yep, we're going to do the remote viewing. I think I'd like to get an interview with Hal Putoff for that. And then Richard Doty, I believe, has actually a bunch of good information on the remote viewing. So working on lining up that interview as well.
Very cool. Very cool. Can't wait to see that one. And what was the name of the extraterrestrial that they found? Wasn't it
EBA.
EBA. Yeah, I think it's extraterrestrial biological entity. I believe that's what the acronym is short for.
And that's where it's interesting, because they say they had to rearrange its vocal cords so it could speak. So
that's the first I heard of that too in your documentary.
And it's really. Go ahead, Vance.
Where did the graphic come from where you could see this little thing, you know, on his chest or something? It looked like maybe that's where they put the device in or something. I never seen that before.
That's just good storytelling, Chris. I don't know. We happened to, you know, we didn't.
That was stuff we shot. Is what he's talking about, I think.
The thing on the neck?
Yeah, it was an alien. Okay, it was a close-up of an alien, or like a chest shot, but there was like a little ring, like
I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Like somebody operated on, inserted the device.
That's just filmmaking there, Vance. I mean, we have to throw in stuff like that. You know, the B-roll,
stock footage.
There's some stock footage, and we shot a lot of stuff too. But you know, you got to keep it compelling, and I think the visuals helps sell the ideas. Obviously,
well, you were lucky to find something like that exactly fitted in with what the narrative was.
And is it that far fetched? I mean, would we not I just feel like if I had an ET like locked in my basement and like I needed him to communicate, like I'm probably gonna be like, oh, dude, all right, this is the best I can come up with, man. You're sending me this stuff to my head, but I'm having trouble sending that shit back to you. And, it sounds plausible to me. So I found that very interesting in the documentary as well. And then some of the things that the EBA communicated, just really, really dope. And I don't know, good food for thought, really.
Very much so. Any questions from you or the audience, fans?
Well, there's Fancy Crafts wanted to know, and this is a good one. In your guys' opinion, what is the best way to determine which UFO cases are likely to be true?
Oh, I would say when you have a whole bunch of witnesses or people who have experienced something to do with the crash, and you interview them all separately and find patterns amongst their stories. So forget the little tiny details and focus on the big ones that are consistent throughout them, and then go from there. And I think that kind of process of elimination works across most things. You can see it like Me Too movements and stuff like that. If it's just a victim saying somebody did something, then you're unfortunately in a he said, she said, they said kind of situation. But now if multiple people come out and you see a pattern amongst them, it's more than likely true, or something about it's true. So that's kind of the way I lead in that stuff.
But I would be mindful not to just hop on whatever the popular opinion is, because I feel like, the Tic Tac video or whatever was released on some German graphic design forum blog, whatever it was, right? But somehow it leaked years ago. And people are like, nah, dude, that's fake. There's no way that's real. And so the collective consciousness thought this was fake forever because everybody said it was. And then you get a New York Times article where it's saying this stuff was true. So what else is out there on the internet that looks too good to be true? And, maybe the intelligence community did their best job helping spread. Dude, you're a knucklehead if you think that is a UFO. And some of that stuff we might find out, down the road here that it's confirmed by Congress, et cetera, and the military that, oh no, dude, those were actually real that entire time.
Yeah.
So use your best judgment and don't be afraid to change your opinion based on new information. Like if you think this video is real and it feels real based on your best judgment, and something comes out down the road or a case, like a specific case, Like, dude, it's okay to change your opinion. That's what being human's all about and growing. So yeah, don't be afraid to make mistakes, man. Just go out and try your best. That's going to get you really far. And that's how these documentaries have gotten as far as they are. It's like, oh, dude, like when I fly out to interview these people, or like when we drive to this haunted cemetery tomorrow, like, dude, you can bet your bottom dollar from when we get there to when we leave, Chris and I will be going 110 miles per hour. We'll leave it all there at the haunted cemetery, man. We're not just going out here half-assed and stuff. And I think, hopefully that shows in our documentaries and that they keep getting better. And encourages others like, dude, just whatever you really dig, like go really try and do it. You're going to surprise yourself, man. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100, you'll be able to do it. And the more you do it, you're just going to get better at it. So whatever it is, go chase it.
Wonderful. Any other questions? I think
yeah. Crystal Shaman wants to know. Get ready, everybody. Here it is. Have any of us on the panel had an ET and or UFO experience? Now, you said you did, Miguel.
Yes.
You've had UFO sightings at least.
Mm-hmm.
But who else?
Can you go into detail, Miguel? I don't know if I heard your.
Yeah, the one I had was, I think, 2007 or 6. I was in Portugal, my mom's house by the mountains and the ocean, and I walked out with my son, and we saw these 4 lights, again, moving over the mountains, almost like in a dance, and such a speed, no sound, and in such a way, there's no way it could have been something that... You couldn't have been a traditional aircraft or anything. It was incredible how fast and what motion. And so I freaked out and running down the mountain with my son. And I saw my cousin. He's like, oh, yeah. He was on the road. Oh, yeah, we see him all the time. And everybody had seen it. And even the newspapers in Portugal, there was a headline like, UFO activity is really high this summer. So it was just something normal. Now I understand this could it's either extraterrestrial or it's some sort of advanced technology that we are not privy. It's either got to be that, but the hallucination was out the door once I was able to get, everybody had seen it and other people had seen it over the days. My son we were both sober, clear night. So it's either advanced technology or some sort of UFO. That's all I got.
Yeah, I wish I had seen more than I've seen, because I'd always, especially in my younger years, really wanted to see UFOs, But one night in 1980, saw something in the sky. I happened to have binoculars in my trunk, and I watched this weird cylindrical object with a little flame out the one end tumbling through the sky for 15 minutes. Oh. And I passed it to my girlfriend and she looked through them. Yeah. And she saw it too. So both of us saw it. I wasn't hallucinating or anything, but it disappeared behind a cloud, but it never landed or anything. It just tumbled through the sky. Just this, like, this cylinder with a flame at the end of it. And I thought, well, maybe it was a booster or something, but that's not the way that happens. Boosters, they run out of fuel after a while. I mean, and the other thing I've seen is through second-gen night vision, binoculars. I've seen things in the sky that are way faster than any aircraft or whatever, moving in strange patterns. But other than that, I wish I could say more, but that's all I've seen.
Gotcha. I had the one. So there was one sighting when I was out doing a camp out for the Secrets of the Sasquatch documentary by myself. And yeah, it was freezing cold, 26 degrees Fahrenheit, setting up the tent. Night, it's already dark out. I'm about to freeze my butt off, and I still need to build a fire ring and whatnot and get a fire going so I don't freeze to death. And happen to see this light coming across the sky, stop, start dropping towards the horizon, pause, drop towards the horizon, pause, drop toward, and definitely I couldn't explain it. I didn't have a whole lot of mental resources to like really chew on it right then and there, because I like had to get this tent set up and had to get this fire going. So I survived, but that was cool. But like I try and use discernment and not just automatically always jump to, oh, that's a UFO, because, I've been on another Secrets of the Sasquatch camp out, saw Starlink, the satellite train, come up over the tree line. And had I not seen a YouTube video before of what it was, my brain, dude, we are being invaded by aliens right now. I know nothing man-made that is luminous can cover that amount of sky. It's all moving at the same speed. And then because, it ends up, like, since these satellites aren't actually illuminating or giving off any light, they're just reflecting sunlight. So like it never gets to the horizon. It just disappears right in the middle, like 20 degrees up from the horizon as it falls into the Earth's shadows. So it looks like, the satellite train goes right into a wormhole. So like I've seen stuff like that and know that, hey, there's stuff out there that can explain it. But man, certainly, yeah, that the one sighting was wild. And then also, on a really clear night at a different Secrets of the Sasquatch camp out, could track like a satellite with my bare eye, across the sky. Like you can see this little thing and it's like, well, dude, it's not shifting direction. It's maintaining speed and it's going from this horizon to the other. This is not otherworldly. But yeah, the one I saw, right. It's like, oh, dude, I don't know anything that can operate in that manner. So yeah, I think there's definitely something out there. The odds are in its favor, I would say.
Yeah, I haven't had any experiences.
It'll happen.
Yet.
It'll happen.
Yet.
Yeah.
We got this camp out, Chris, tomorrow. Who knows what happens tomorrow night?
Yeah, very excited.
You guys been talking about anal probes enough. Maybe we just manifested that into the universe for you, dog. You're welcome.
All right, well, that'll be fun, I guess.
Worked for South Park, right?
Yeah,
right. So they got their start with that. Now they get people's attention. Was it you guys that that pointed out that the Navy is only agency that's in the military that's disclosing, and the Air Force is still silent about it?
I don't know. I mean, I know it's come up before. I don't think we were ever the one to like spearhead that idea and say, hey, you guys should pay attention to this. I had seen that before. I think I've parroted it. I think it's mentioned. Yeah, it's mentioned in the doc. I think Jesse Peak might be the one that mentions it.
Yeah, it's definitely in the doc.
But yeah, that is highly questionable or odd. I don't care what you're like, where you fall on the spectrum. It's like, well, hold on, dude. Why can't we get any data from the Air Force if they're in charge of maintaining security, like of our airspace? What? Yeah. Why are we getting only Navy?
Well, it's almost makes sense because, as you know, the Air Force and the Navy are rivals. The Navy flies, Air Force obviously flies, and the Navy's always saying, we're better than the Air Force, and the Air Force saying we're better than the Navy. So it might be the kind of thing. Well, we'll show the Air Force we're going to disclose this, while these guys are like still keeping it. And now we have the Space Force to deal with, aside from the Air Force, and that's where it would naturally fall as far as disclosures and so forth goes. But you got to wonder, I don't know if people think about this. What about the stuff that they could have that's never come out? For example, gun camera film. There have been many stories about sightings, and we know they have taken film. There's gun camera film for years and years and years. None of it that I know of has come out. None of it. Now the Belgians, remember the Belgian UFO flap with the triangles? That's where the triangles first came out. They came out with radar and also similar to the Tic Tac, where they had heads up display video that they showed people. But you got to wonder, where's the gun camera film? If they're going to disclose, why don't they come out with the previous years? Now, okay, now we can let you know it's real. Why don't they show us? That's a big question.
Do you think there's a fear within that agency that because they don't know what it is, they are unwilling to show it in case it is of another country's origin or something like that. You know what I mean? And show their cards essentially.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very real possibility. You know,
Chris, I'm as ethnocentric as they come. U.S. is the best, baby. So I don't think anybody's got tech. If it ain't ours, I don't think it's not the Russians.
Not saying it might not. Well, Chinese. Yeah, but even if they just don't know what it is,
I think that's a possibility. Is that they just, just not knowing and. See, with what you've said earlier, Vance, about the Air Force and the Navy going back and forth, if anything, man, I hope maybe the egos get into play where the Air Force is like, oh, you think you're releasing some good UFO data? Oh, just you wait. New York Times got nothing on this 60 Minutes piece that's about to drop. So, I hope it goes something like that. And at the end of the day, I think it's, okay, there's no gun camera footage, but the fact that we have radar and these like incredibly sensitive data, like sensors picking up these objects and having them traverse from 60,000 feet to 100 feet above the surface of the ocean or whatever, in like a second, and being witnessed by these pilots. This isn't me or Chris, smoking a J out on the back porch, right? And seeing this thing in the sky. Like, these are highly trained pilots who are going through, like tons of mental tests, right? Like, they need to be of sound mind, and they need to be able to identify these things at high speeds using multiple instrumentation, visual identification. And the fact that we've had enough pilots as we've had so far come out and say that they've seen these things and know that the FAA and, reports have come out where like, right, a lot of pilots were pressured like not to report it or felt that, there was enough bad experiences from other people where they're just like, dude, I can't even report this, bro. I got it. Christmas is coming up. I got to get my kids presents. Like, I can't lose my job over this unexplainable light that I saw or craft. So I think it's dope that we're getting more, not just more like sightings and reports, but by these credible people with credible sensors and credible data. It's like, I don't know why they would just go make this stuff up. It doesn't make a lot of sense. I'm inclined to believe them.
Yeah, that Crystal touches on a point that's kind of covered in our documentary about Roswell. Like, why wouldn't you just reveal it? It's been so long. And, potentially it's because of what was done to cover it up. And it's easier just to never say than to make reparations for what's been done.
Talk about, cover-ups. I, years ago when I was taking flying lessons, I arranged a tour of the local air traffic control facility. So we were on the tour and we were in the big room, with all the radar screens, and the tour guide was like a manager there. And I said, yeah, how about UFOs? Have you guys ever seen anything, tracked anything or UFOs? Nah, there's no such thing as UFOs. That's all nonsense. So you know what? He, by reacting the way he did, because I know darn well there are always things on radar screens that you are not identified, flocks of birds, whatever. And by denying it so vehemently, he was basically telling me he was covering it up, that he was just saying what the policy was. So I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
This guy was rabid. I mean, you couldn't believe it.
Lord have mercy. Yeah, it's quite a labyrinth. Awesome. Well, I think we are towards at the end of the interview. Unless, Vance, there's some burning question by somebody in the audience.
I don't see any. Audience, this is your chance. Any more questions? Come on.
But while there's a last shot, guys, the audio version will be out in a day or two. There will be links on the show notes. But for those who need the audio version, where can they find the movie and your website and all that good stuff?
Sure. So again, Tyler Transu and Chris Rupert with Dockside Media. You can get our new documentary, In Plain Sight, The Intelligence Community and UFOs, on October 18th on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, PlayStation, or Microsoft. You can also find links to our other documentaries and this one on our website, www.docsidemedia.com. That's DOCSIDEMEDIA. And then we're also real active on the socials like Facebook, as well as Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. All of those are at Dockside Media. And then we also have a YouTube channel. So we'd love to have you guys follow along with us on these adventures and paranormal experiences and investigating these types of things. And we're always putting out public social call outs or requests. Hey, we're doing this documentary. We're doing this camp out. We're looking into Sasquatch. Does anybody want to join us? So if this is something you're into and passionate about, dude, we'd love to have you be a part of like one of our films and one of these adventures and investigations for sure. So follow us on the socials, man, and you'll see them pop up. I'm thinking this time next year we got another 4 documentaries out. So come be a part of one of them 4.
Good deal. Yeah, I love the work you're doing.
Yeah,
Elvis approves. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks again, guys, for having us on. Our whole goal is to just try and open people's minds to these subjects that are a bit stigmatized in ways. And I saw Bayesian's comments in there where he's upset or something. And I just fear, a lot of times people come with their own conclusions and are willing to disregard everything else in favor of their conclusion they already have set. And we just want to try and get people to listen. You don't necessarily have to buy into it, but just listen and keep an open mind. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, the best argument does not negate all the other arguments.
Exactly.
So things move up and you get more data. And again, who knows? The time travelers, archons, hybrids. It's all on the table, and it should be on the table because the data, the sound data points to it, but we're not there yet.
100%. Yeah.
Some of them could be demons, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
They could. I mean, angels, demons, this stuff's been talked about for millennia. So it's like, oh, dude, maybe all the religions are correct, right? If there's a billion different extraterrestrial races and they're all trying to influence us, like, oh, dude, we might find out everybody's correct. Even those darn witches in Salem, they were doing their best with the tools they had.
Yeah, very true. Well said. All right. Well, first of all, Vance, thanks for being here and keeping everything in order, keeping the ship from crashing into each other.
Sure, Elvis. It's a bunch of burning saucer. It's
Only
great
foolish aliens rush in, right?
Blue suede aliens. Yeah. Don't touch my blue suede aliens. Thanks, Tyler and Chris. Congratulations on your great documentary. A lot of people are going to learn, what's being said about UFOs and so forth. So good luck with your next one.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much for having us on, man. We love coming on. You guys are always just a great show. And honestly, I think you guys have probably the most engagement, I think, out of the pods we go on. I mean, your live chat is always just people are engaging. So kudos to you and the brand and the momentum that you guys have been able to build here. Love what you're doing, man. And really appreciate you guys having us on.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes. I got to work on my Elvis for a Halloween night when I go with the kids. But yeah, thanks. No, you guys, I love what you're doing. I think this is your best one yet. Everybody go check it out. It's pretty intense. Hopefully you'll be angry, disturbed, pleased, fast, everything. You should have the whole spectrum, because I think that's the purpose, to think more and probe more. Probing mentally, not the other, but so yeah, great job, guys, and we look forward, Tyler and Chris, to your next movie. Thanks for joining us.
We'll send it your way, brother, as soon as it's done.
All right, to everybody else, thanks for being here. Thanks for being yourself, your true self, here in the desert of the real. And yeah, as I always say, write your own gospel, live your own myth, and we will see you on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah, fly your own saucer.
I'm mixing my bands. Yeah, I'm mixing my bands now. I'm trying to be Roger Waters. No. All right, guys. Take care and have a good weekend. Bye.